Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you probably one of the most famous puzzles of all time. This was a puzzle by Réti, and it looks like it's just so simple, right? There are only 4 pieces on the board. 1 king, 1 pawn, opposing king, opposing pawn. Okay, the goal is to see how white can draw this position. And at first it looks just like you can't, because if you go after this pawn, the pawn will just run and you won't be able to catch it. And if you try to promote your pawn, well, the black king can just catch that pawn. So how do you make a draw here? So if you've seen this video before, or this puzzle before, just still stick around, because this is a really instructive puzzle, and even seeing it a second and third or fourth time, it's still worth thinking about, reflecting about. So it's important to note that you can't just push right away, because if you do, they catch you and there's not much you can do. If I went to run here, they don't have to take this. They could if they wanted to, but they could just push the pawn and there's nothing I can do to stop it. If I ever promote, they just capture. So what is the key here? Well, it kicks off with king g7. So king g7, it's not clear what the intention of the king is. Is the intention of the king to come this way, to shepherd the pawn up the board, or is it to go this way, to attack this pawn and get a draw? So, okay, black says, that's fine. I can either push this pawn, or I can attack your pawn. Let's go with the more, we'll show both, but the one that I would play this move, because it feels like the more natural move, right? Well, here's where it gets kind of interesting. King f6 is the only move that draws here. So the king is walking to the middle, but what's the point? The point is I'm buying time to show that I'm going toward this pawn, but I'm also, because of the geometry of the board, I'm also inching closer to the pawn, our pawn, my pawn. So I'm inching closer toward their pawn, but I'm also inching closer toward my pawn. Okay, so what if they just keep pushing? I'm never going to catch this, it seems. If they push again, and we can look at what happens if they don't, but if they push again, you have now, you're not going to follow. Instead, you make a mad dash toward your pawn. King e7 or king e6, they both work. And now the idea is that if the pawn goes up the board, maybe just something simply like h2, I actually go c7, and this pawn's going to promote. So if they promote, I promote with check. This is a draw. The easiest way to draw it is like this. That's a nice draw. So, going back, if they, instead of pushing the pawn after I make this move, if they realize what I'm doing, and they come to king b6, saying, okay, now I'm going to make sure I'm attacking this, I still go king e5. Now look at the way I'm doing this. Here, here, here. What am I doing? I'm going to the middle of the board, and I'm pretty much asking black, which way do you think I'm going to go? If I go this way, then I'm going to try to push this pawn, 1, 2. And if I go that way, I'm going to try to capture your pawn before it can go 1, 2, 3. Like that. Pretty amazing, just the geometry of the board, right? Just think about that really fast. Let's just take a moment to think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would catch it. That's the same as this. 1, 2, 3, 4. But look at what this is doing. By going this direction, diagonally, I don't know if it's fair to say that you're misdirecting, but you're thinking the king is going to go this way to get that king and the pawn together. So really what I'm trying to say is this diagonal, you're using it as a decoy so you can come back if it ever needs to go that way. So just to make sure that's clear, after this king moves here, I said king e5, right? The whole point was to show that I'm either going to go that way or that way. Oops, not the knight, that way. So if you take, that just bought me enough time to get king f4, and I am now, after this move, my move is in the box, right? This is the box, like this. I'm in the box. So this, capture, draw. So let's look at a couple of the variations. After you kick off, instead of going with the pawn immediately, if you play king b6, still same thing, king f6. I'm going to go one of these ways. But you can't defend against both of them. If you push the pawn, that buys me just enough time to go king e5. And now I'm going to go this way if you push this pawn. So if they do that, let's just show the variation. If they play h3 saying, hey, I'm going to promote this pawn, my little deflection idea of going this way, now I don't go this way. I go this way. Isn't this cool? King d6. What's the point? Now if you push, I push, and you can either push and get a queen, or if you want to play one more move out, you can go king b7, saying if you push, I take you. But after king d7, I'm promoting this pawn whether you like it or not. Queen, queen with check, and where do you go? King d6, or sorry, king b6. Just don't walk on the diagonal. Don't get skewered. It's a draw. Okay. So what is the moral of the story here? What is so special about this particular puzzle? Why do you need to know it? First of all, it's aesthetically pretty amazing. It looks like this king is so far away from this pawn, and it looks like black is just winning. But it's really about geometry here, and it's about finding a correct path that can act as a decoy for your king. I love the aesthetics of it. I think it's something that you really should know as a chess player, not just knowing the puzzle, understanding the deeper concept. Understanding why the king can act in this, it can walk in this geometrical sense, and understanding the geometry of the board. Right? That's 6 moves for the king. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in 6 moves, the king can get from here to here. That's the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're never going to have to even get here, but if you did, that's 6. So thinking about these equivalent routes, I think is helpful. And even here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look at that. You can get here so many different ways. Oops, not that way, like that. And you can have more fun with it if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm 1 short. But it's a lot of fun, and I think it teaches the geometry of chess and how it's really critical. So this is a Réti study. I mentioned it in one of my other videos, and someone said they wanted to see it. So this is my attempt of serving the audience. So if you have any suggestions, please drop them below. I love looking over what the community has to offer. There are some fantastic and instructive puzzles out there. So if you have any, please share them. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I put new videos out all the time, and my goal is to help spread the amazing game of chess and to help out charity. Thanks so much. Bye.